In an exclusive LA screening, The Eternals was on Monday, October 18th, shown to select audiences and members of the entertainment media complex. And unexpectedly, the movie was being hailed as another triumph for Marvel. Though this time, the buzzwords are ambitious, visually stunning, epic, and full of surprises. On top of that, a reporter from Variety dropped some strategic spoilers that you would think the studio would not want out there weeks before the movie is set to open to the public. Or would they? Because the early reactions indicate that on its own, The Eternals might not be the crowd pleaser that Marvel needs it to be. In this video, we will begin by going through these early reactions and the Variety released spoilers, and provide an analysis of what that really might mean. Then we'll see what Kevin Feige had to say about the movie and its Jack Kirby legacy. And unlike Feige, we'll point out just how far removed this movie is from its Jack Kirby roots. On October 18th, Marvel's Eternals held its world premiere in Los Angeles, California, giving critics their first opportunity to watch the movie. It remains embargoed though, so no full reviews will be out just yet. But those in attendance were invited to share their spoiler-free social media reactions on Twitter and other platforms. Hence, we got nuggets like Collider's Drew Taylor saying, "Eternals breaks new ground for the MCU, and not in all the ways you're expecting." And Aaron Couch of The Hollywood Reporter saying, "If Marvel movies are a Venn diagram, variations within that overlap. This movie is off the charts, hands down the most different of any of their films." There were many similar reactions that all point to how unique and how different the movie is. And while much praise was heaped and many claimed it was amazing, few suggested this is going to be universally embraced. On the contrary, Andrew J. Salazar of Geeks of Color said, "This film is totally going to be divisive. Spoke to other critics after that had way different opinions than me. But I think that's just the sign that it doesn't feel streamlined for the most part." While Dan Casey of The Nerdist said, "Definitely not for everyone." Against that backdrop then, you then had Variety's Matt Donnelly do what none of the others in attendance did, namely drop some spoilers. He spoiled that there is a sex scene, albeit G-rated, and two men are kissing. He also partially spoiled the post-credit scene, saying, "Big reveal from the Eternals premiere. Harry Styles has joined the MCU as Eros, brother of Thanos." So, the Variety representative let it be known weeks before the movie is released to the public that teenage heartthrob Harry Styles is in it. Now, all of the film reviewers in attendance know that if they step out of line in their coverage of this Marvel movie, they might not be invited back for the next one. So you'd think that of all publications, Variety would know better than to drop such spoilers. They are, after all, a studio mouthpiece. Then again, and with that in mind, it might not have been a coincidence that these particular nuggets of information came specifically from Variety and not anyone else. In the October 20th edition of our tri-weekly live show Midnight's Edge in the Morning, we were guested by filmmaker Chris Gore of Attack of the Show and My Big Fat Independent Movie fame. Being in the industry and knowing several of those who were present at the screening, he shared some thoughts on the matter.
Here's what I am told by people who have seen the movie. The reaction is incredibly lukewarm to this film. And not like Shang-Chi, where it's like, I do believe that there was genuine reaction that people really liked that film. The reaction to this movie, which is 2.5 hours, here are some of the keywords that you'll see pop up. There's a lot of story, and the movie is really dense. Those are not positive comments. It's over. I'm sure it's overly complex. I mean, Chloe Zhao she's came from indie film. Her movies are very pretentious, they're thought-provoking, they're earnest. And I have no doubt that this movie is exactly all of those things, right? It's very earnest, it's very thought-provoking, and everything is incredibly important, and it matters so much. It doesn't mean that as small indie movies that those aren't successful. I think that what she's done is what she's done in her previous work is very successful on that level. Like, that's what you come to expect, not necessarily for a big spectacle blockbuster applying that tone and whatnot. So the audience they came out is dense, different. It's a surprise. Like you're like, are those good things? But there's something that's, what I'm told is that it was a lukewarm, it's been across the board a lukewarm response. Robert Meyer Burnett, I think, had the most different response. He didn't parrot what everyone else has been saying about Eternals. Rob said that Eternals does what Ridley Scott was trying to do with Prometheus, which is tell a God story, right? Story of the gods. So he says and Rob saw it yesterday. So I'm sure he's done a video on it. He's a guy that's very careful about not spoiling. He's very respectful, which I appreciate. I've always appreciated about him. But his tweet about it was that it was the only, and I'm just like, oh, okay. Now I see why this is probably not going to appeal necessarily to general audiences. But that leak of the spoiler came from people who work at Variety. Also, Disney did nothing to shut those down. They didn't try to delete those tweets, right? If they were deleted, it was the critics taking it upon themselves. Additionally, there was someone who worked at Disney who said people are leaking, and they had this kind of cute, animated GIF of the Hulk, right? Like, don't spoil the movie. I 100% believe that leak was planned. That follow-up tweet from Disney about don't spoil the film was planned, because they know the movie's lukewarm, and the only way that they can get the audience to go see it is because there is a big reveal at the end. And I'm actually not going to say it here, but it's very easy to go find out, of a very popular actor among young women who love this actor or entertainer, who has now entered the Marvel universe. So they're super excited about it. So I believe that that's a marketing strategy on behalf of the studio. Never underestimate Disney. I mean, Disney, when it comes to their marketing, they're very good. They're very good. One would argue that sometimes the marketing is better than the movies. I think that's a decent argument that could be made. In a lot of
cases, yes.
Yeah, in a lot of cases, that's true. So I believe it was planned, and I believe it's because they have a lack of confidence in this movie performing beyond the first weekend.
Also in attendance at this screening was Marvel Studios head honcho Kevin Feige. There, he spoke with the Hollywood Reporter of Venom's MCU connection, which we'll get back to in a future video, but in conjunction with the Eternals. He also spoke of Jack Kirby, the creator of the Eternals, and alongside Stan Lee, co-creator of the entire Marvel comic book universe at large. According to the Hollywood Reporter, the legacy of Jack Kirby, who died in 1994, was top of mind at the Eternals premiere, where Deadpool creator Rob Liefeld walked the red carpet with the copy of the Eternals #1 he bought at his local store as a kid. The legacy of Jack Kirby could very well have been at the top of Rob Liefeld's mind, but it certainly wasn't on anyone else's, and least of all that of Kevin Feige. He told The Hollywood Reporter, "The whole movie is a love letter to what one man was able to do with a pencil sitting at a little desk on the East Coast." This statement ranges somewhere between disingenuous and bold-faced lie. A more accurate statement would have been, this movie couldn't have existed without what one man was able to do with a pencil sitting at a little desk on the East Coast. But this movie is not a love letter to that man. On the contrary, it is, if anything, a Dear John letter. The visual style of Eternals creator Jack Kirby and the visual style of director Chloe Zhao are mutually exclusive. So for the Eternals movie, Jack Kirby was scrapped. For more details on this, we have a whole mini-documentary about how Marvel removed Jack Kirby from Jack Kirby's Eternals, so do check that out. For now, Let me know your thoughts on these early Eternals reactions and spoilers in the comments.